The Velkara auction house floated in the neutral zone between 12 different stellar nations, a massive ring-shaped station where fortunes changed hands and empires acquired their toys. Jackson stood near the back of the crowded amphitheater, his human frame dwarfed by the towering Crithians and the floating gas forms of the ethereals. Beside him, Orla scrolled through her datapad with practiced disinterest. "Lot 847, she muttered, her Irish accent cutting through the babel of alien languages. "That's the one we're after, right? The cargo hauler." Jackson nodded, his eyes fixed on the holographic display at the center of the amphitheater. They'd scraped together 15,000 credits over the past 2 years working salvage operations in the Outer Rim. It was barely enough for a decent second-hand freighter, but it would be theirs. No more working for the Megacorps, no more splitting profits with crew chiefs who barely acknowledged humans as sentient. The auctioneer, a Velkara with iridescent scales and too many eyes, gestured with 3 of its 6 arms. "Lot 843, a magnificent specimen, pre-war Crithian dreadnought, only 30 cycles old, minimal hull damage from the Proxima conflicts." The bidding erupted instantly. Numbers climbed into the millions within seconds. Jackson watched the display with a mixture of awe and resentment. That was the way of the galaxy. The strong got stronger, and humans, newcomers to the cosmic stage, scrambled for scraps. Orla elbowed him gently. "Don't get bitter, we'll have our ship soon enough." But as lot after lot passed, Jackson's attention wandered. The procession of sleek cruisers, exotic pleasure yachts, and military surplus seemed endless. Then something caught his eye. "Lot 844, the auctioneer announced with noticeably less enthusiasm. "Unidentified vessel recovered from the dead belt. Classification unknown. Age unknown. All scanning attempts have failed to penetrate the hull. Sold as is, no guarantees, no refunds." The hologram flickered to life, and Jackson's breath caught. The ship was unlike anything he'd ever seen. It sat in the display like a predator at rest, angular, brutal, covered in what looked like overlapping plates of dark armor. It had none of the elegant curves of modern vessels, none of the bright alloys or decorative elements. It looked ancient and impossibly solid, as if someone had carved a warship from a single piece of midnight. "What is that?" Jackson whispered. Around them, the various species murmured dismissively. A Crithian near the front made a derisive clicking sound. "Junk from the dead belt. Probably a derelict from the old wars, 10,000 cycles gone. The hull's likely fused shut. You'd spend more cutting it open than it's worth." "Opening bid," the auctioneer continued, sounding almost apologetic, 1 credit. Silence. Jackson felt something stir in his chest, an instinct he couldn't name. The ship looked wrong to everyone else, but to him it looked purposeful. Every angle, every plate, every shadow seemed deliberate. It didn't look dead, it looked like it was waiting. 1 credit, Orla said beside him, "for a ship that size." "No one wants it," Jackson replied. "They can't scan it, can't identify it. In a galaxy where information is everything, that's terrifying." The auctioneer waited, its multiple eyes scanning the crowd. "No bids, very well, I'll withdraw." 7 credits. Jackson's voice rang out before he could stop himself. Every being in the amphitheater turned to stare. Orla grabbed his arm. "Jackson, what are you doing?" The auctioneer's scales rippled with what might have been surprise. 7 credits from the human in the back. Any advance on 7 credits. The Crithian who'd spoken earlier made another dismissive sound, but didn't bid. No one did. To them, Jackson had just purchased a very expensive mystery box that would likely cost millions to crack open, assuming it wasn't completely hollow or filled with radiation. "Sold," the auctioneer declared, clearly eager to move on. "Lot 844 to the human for 7 credits." Orla stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "We came here for a cargo hauler. We have 15,000 credits. You just spent 7 on. What exactly?" I don't know, Jackson admitted, still staring at the hologram. But look at it, Orla, really look at it. She did, her green eyes narrowing. The amphitheater had already moved on to lot 845, but the image of the dark ship remained in Jackson's mind. It's old, she said finally. It's more than old, it's waiting. 3 days later, they stood in docking bay 7 of the auction house's transfer station. The ship loomed before them, even larger in person than the hologram had suggested. It was easily 300 meters long, shaped like a wedge of obsidian, every surface covered in those overlapping armor plates. The station manager, a nervous Velkara, kept a safe distance. Your purchase, humans, I must warn you again, we've been unable to open any hatches, unable to scan the interior, unable to even determine what the hull is made of. It could be completely inert. We'll take our chances, Jackson said. The Velkara departed quickly, leaving them alone with their 7-credit mystery. Orla walked slowly around the ship's perimeter, running her hand along the hull. It's warm, she said, just slightly, and the metal, I've never felt anything like it. It's smooth but not quite solid, like there's something moving underneath. Jackson found what looked like it might be a hatch, a rectangular seam in the otherwise seamless hull. He placed his palm against it, not really expecting anything. The ship woke up. Light blazed along the seams between armor plates, a brilliant electric blue that spread across the hull like neural pathways firing. The hatch dilated open with a sound like a sigh, revealing a corridor that glowed with the same blue luminescence. Jackson, Orla's voice was sharp with alarm and excitement. I know, he breathed. They entered together, and the ship seemed to welcome them. The corridor was sized for beings roughly their height, unusual, given that most galactic species were larger than humans. The walls were lined with what looked like crystal panels, all pulsing gently with that blue light. The corridor opened into a command deck that took Jackson's breath away. It was circular, dominated by a central holographic display, with stations arranged around the perimeter. Everything was labeled, but not in any language Jackson recognized. Still, when he looked at a symbol, its meaning seemed to bloom in his mind. Weapons, navigation, power, life support. It's talking to me, he whispered. Not in words, but I understand it. Orla moved to another station, her fingers hovering over the controls. Me too. Jackson, this is adaptive interface technology. The ship is reading our neural patterns and adjusting. This is centuries beyond anything in the market. He sat in the command chair, and the ship responded like a loyal hound recognizing its master. Displays lit up around him, showing system after system coming online. Power core, he read, the alien symbols translating themselves in his mind. Functioning at 15%, weapons array offline, shields calibrating, hull integrity perfect. Jackson, look at this. Orla's voice was hushed with wonder. She'd found a data repository and information was flooding her screen. I can't read all of it, but I'm getting fragments. This ship, it's not from the dead belt. It's not from any recent civilization. How old? Old, maybe before the Crithians, before the Velkara. The data references something called the Precursor Wars. Jackson had heard whispers of the Precursors, ancient races that had supposedly dominated the galaxy millions of years ago, long before any current species had even evolved. Most scholars dismissed them as myth. If this is precursor tech, Orla continued, we're sitting on the most valuable find in 10,000 years. The weapons alone. Wait, Jackson held up a hand. Look at this. He'd found the ship's log, or what passed for one. Images flowed through his mind, fleets of ships like this one, hundreds of them, engaged in battles across the stars. But they weren't fighting aliens. They were fighting machines, vast artificial intelligences that had nearly consumed the galaxy. The precursors built this, Jackson said slowly, to fight an AI plague. They won, but the cost was so high that their civilizations never recovered. This ship is a relic from that war, designed to protect organic life. And it's been waiting, Orla finished, waiting for someone to claim it. The ship pulsed around them, that blue light seeming almost eager now. Jackson stood, moving to the main display. With a thought, he activated the external sensors. The view of the docking bay appeared crystal clear. Beyond it, he could see the auction house, the various ships coming and going, the vast tapestry of galactic civilization. A civilization that saw humans as newcomers, as lesser beings scrambling for scraps. "What do we call her?" Orla asked, standing beside him. Jackson thought about the Crithian who dismissed the ship as junk, about the species who'd ignored humanity for decades, about the long road ahead. He thought about the precursors, who'd built this ship to protect life itself, and how it had chosen to wake for them. Two humans who'd scraped together everything they had for a chance at freedom. "Vindication," he said. "We call her Vindication." The ship's lights pulsed in what felt unmistakably like approval. They had purchased an armored spaceship for 7 credits, a vessel the entire galaxy had dismissed as worthless junk. They had no idea how right they were about to prove everyone wrong, or how the name, Vindication, would echo across the stars in the years to come. But standing there in the command deck of a precursor warship, with the galaxy spread out before them and power thrumming through the deck plates beneath their feet, Jackson and Orla shared a smile. The galaxy had ignored them long enough. It was time to make an entrance.